불가위야. 막아내지 못하리. 하! 핫! 하! 틈을 끊어. 바로 이.
필요 없는 시간을 가져가지.
Next up is gluttony. Roots of plants dig through the dirt in search of nutrients. What distinguishes them is, however, that they are not satisfied with satiation alone. The roots continue to grow, seeking increasing greater supply of nutrients. Hang on a minute, what's this? Heathcliff, after flipping through a few more pages ahead, looked at Hohenheim and shouted, "Are we really going to do this song and dance for each and every one of these pectalium? Why don't we lump them together like how you've paired up sinners?" Running low on patience already. Only simpletons would make such a basic suggestion. It's standard protocol, in case you weren't aware. I'm also unhappy about this process, but sometimes we must swallow our complaints and do as we're told for the sake of proper test results. You make a valid proposition. What? Very well. I also fail to see the necessity in fighting these pectula one by one, especially given the busy schedule ahead of us. Your suggestion is accepted, assistant. Huh? What? Really? Aren't you the one who suggested it? If we didn't have to fight them one by one anyway, then why didn't we do this from the start? Because testing them one by one yields more accurate results. Studies suggest the margin of error may grow by 0.06 when testing multiple entities at once. I see, but I say the benefits of a smaller margin of error outweighs the convenience of lumping them all together. Why don't we proceed as planned? Bloody hell, just let it go, yeah? Yeah, Otis, come on. This is very careless. This very carelessness is why. I think we can risk a 0.06 greater margin of error, right? Indeed, it is something necessary to prioritize efficiency over the pursuit of perfection. I will abide by the executive manager's judgment. That was the fastest 180 I've ever seen from Otis in my entire life. And it's just this once, but you know. Very well, then allow me to explain Pectula morositatis gloom as well. Have you ever immersed yourself in deep waters? Quite easy to sink to the depths, no? However, the deeper one sinks, the harder does it become to rise again. The pressure suffocates you from all directions, no matter how much you thrash around, desperately looking for something to grab onto. All you find is futility, such as gloom. I suppose one of the few benefits of working for this company is that its constant motion gives no time for such emotions to drag us down, especially now that I have some level of confidence that they might actually keep their end of the contract. Oh, sounds like a disagreement's brewing. Even after I've joined the bus team, I feel like I'm floundering deep in some ditch, you know? Though I'm only here because I want to be here, but still. Are you sure you're in that ditch by choice? Maybe you didn't know how to rise to the surface again. Aha, I don't appreciate hearing that from somebody who doesn't even know what I'm talking about. Ahem. Well, it's all ready to go now. In you go. You too, assistant. You aren't exempt from the tests. Me too? Perfect timing. I've been getting a bit tired of all this mental exercise. Right then, let's wrap this up quick.
완벽한 거리. 이 거리는 충분해. 너한텐 조금 멀겠지만.
Well, they weren't too much trouble. Next up, you two, get in there. With Ryoshu, let's do this, I guess. ST. What? She wants to switch team. Oh, lovely. That's so passive-aggressive, it's hilarious. Really? Now? What's your problem this time, Ryoshu? Your dull harpoon doesn't interest me. It's dulled so much that I doubt it can even impale that sickly nerd over there. I don't think she'll have too much trouble impaling Hohenheim. Man, everybody's like getting so sick of him that Ryoshu's like, you can't even stab this dude with your dull blade. But I could probably do it better. That's at least my interpretation. Oh well. I'd rather watch that blood fiend fight again. Thou speaketh of me, that's ahem, 'tis quite the pickle. Boy, she wants to switch teams, is that alright? Of course not. You heard the man, let's go. I'll admit that my harpoon's not as sharp as it used to be, and I'll admit I've lost a bit of my edge since then. But we're all sailing on the same boat. I'm not going to hold you or anyone else back. I'm always ready to go back to razor sharpness when the need arises. I'm swapping you out as soon as you start making a fool of yourself. Lass, I thought I've been clear enough on this. Switching teams ain't a thing. Actulum survive? Ride. Hohenheim droned on, as if the bickering sinners didn't exist in his world. Wheels, symbol of technology, and the vector of humanity's ultimate pursuit. The wheel in its boundless pride rolls on and on in search of the perfect circle, something unconquered even by nature. Yet it remains uncaring for the flesh it rents, nor the grass it tramples on its path. Isn't that just confidence, not pride? You can't get anything done just by sitting idly in place. One even might say pride is but another name for overconfidence. It oft claims trailblazers or those who have never tasted failure. Ha, so someone like you, Hohenheim? Well, that certainly is a perspective. Next up is luxury, lust. Moving on just like that, huh? The meaning of pectulium luxury, lust, is not exactly what it says on the tin. A more illustrative description would be, that is, yes, an obsession to spread a fragment of what forms the self. A desire to propagate, to breed. Of course, there is more to this concept than just that. While the word itself may be subject to interpretations limited to the carnal understanding, to share one's knowledge, one's ideas, to invite others into gaining the understanding of a sliver of oneself, you seek to express that such things are lust as well. Not bad. I've always appreciated these discussions with the learned, whatever. There never is any dead air. Admit it, Heathcliff. All of that flew right over your head, didn't it? Why even ask? Unnecessary. Shut up and get in there.
이 작살엔 필살의 집념이 담겨있지. 이 작살엔 필살의 집념이 담겨있지. 이 작살엔 필살의 집념이 담겨있지. 하! 으타! 더 먹어! 내 죄는 내가 알아서 처리한다. 해.
Verily, nigh is the time for young Yisang and I to face the test. The nature of our trial shall take the form as pectula invidiae. I assume that we all have first-hand experience with static shocks. Doth static shock have aught to do with envy? Anyone who's been subject to both static shock and the envy of others must know that the latter stings in the same manner as the former does. I ill comprehended thine explanations. Ah, I see. To explain it in a plainer example, Miss Don Quixote, you have always been fond of and held great respect for the illustrious color fixers, am I correct? Verily, I should be second to none were my passion for them to be measured. Now imagine yourself at a convention of sorts in which that said illustrious color fixers are holding an event to disseminate their autographs. And imagine that you are part of the excited queue. Oh, indeed, I have mentally placed myself there. Proceed. Yet in great misfortune, the event comes to a close, mere moments before you were to receive your autograph. Alack for woe, fate playeth such cruel jest on my pitiful soul. Now, do imagine, what sort of emotion would you feel for the fellow fan who received the final autograph immediately before you were to receive yours, ere the chance was robbed? Well, 'twould be quite the jealousy burning within mine heart, a painfully tingling sensation in my... Oh. My, you certainly enjoy explaining things, don't you? I suppose all scholars are kindred spirits, after all. You two quit the chinwag and get in there. Verily, then onward to a new adventure. Then I shall follow. Alrighty, I have barely any idea how to use this Don Quixote, so this is going to be botched as all heck.
나아가주게.
히어! 아르카나 슬레이버! 자, 악은 이렇게 정화되었네.
This is the fourth time. The fourth time! I got her and her ego and, I believe, Tiferet. First temple, and then I got her ego, and then I've gotten her 3 more times. That I feel like, man, I want Rodion, please. Somebody else deserves to get some Don Quixote. Some people are probably struggling to get her. Please give them my copies. I have them. That doesn't look good. The foundation that led to this disaster was laid by none other than Yisang, whose only sin was making an innocent, tragically casual comment. Sometime after that, we ran our final tests. Please vacate the room, people. Cleanup coming through. Apologies. Miss Don Quixote has ought to. Prithee, avail me but a moment. The shoelaces upon Rocinante have come undone. What? How? I remember tying like 7 different knots on your shoes. Yet 'twere quite the hideous access sorry to be forced upon Rocinante. I have tied one of them once again in the shape of a ribbon. Yeah, the knots didn't look that great. Ribbons are cute. Oh boy. Yet one must begin to wonder about the consequences of Miss Don Quixote freeing her feet from Rocinante at her present state. Whatever art thou suggesting? Rocinante is none other than mine eternal steed, bound to me by fate itself. None shall ever dare sever the bond betwixt us. It was a query posed towards Miss Faust, yet I appreciate your answer all the same. And Faust's reply what set fire upon that rather combustible foundation. I cannot know. What? It's an obvious outcome, given that no relevant data has ever been collected. Well then, no time like the present to get collecting, huh? Good thing we're in lab 2. Where else are we going to get another chance to do that? This course of action is highly inadvisable. Yeah, sounds like a bad time to me. I heard all kinds of horrible stuff happened on that train the moment her shoes came off. Sure did. But 'twas but an independent decision called by Rocinante itself due to certain extreme circumstances that had naught to do with mine will. Well, you know, potato. I was already quite aware that the core of that individual may as well lie in her pair of running shoes. Fie on thee, thou shan't treat a person such as I like some useless shell. What if we slipped her shoes off and on again, really quickly? The standards here at LCE department demand precise measurement. In other words, these tests would be meaningless if all we were measuring is a hollow shell. A hollow shell? We have indulged your predictable provocations enough, Hohenheim. It seems unnecessary to remind you that you have not yet received the full report of what transpired during that incident. In other words, you are risking the occurrence of an unexpected event. You concern yourself unnecessarily. The construction of my laboratory boasts a solid build. Not even abnormalities on the more powerful side of things can puncture holes in its walls. Oh, very well, I will not force your hand. However, due to your unwillingness, I am behooved to record as such in my research journal. Due to the concerned sinner's utterly terrified reaction at the prospect of having to remove her shoes, I must unfortunately leave only a half-complete test result here. Utterly terrified? Terrified? And for your information, these research reports are stored for at least a decade. Yes, we will have possession of a full record of your plain cowardice for at least 10 years. Outcome NA. Reason: subject was too scared to participate. After much contemplation, I have come to conclude that dearest Rocinante deserveth a moment of respite as well. And I, Don Quixote, shall demonstrate before thee that Don Quixote is Don Quixote in her course, still without Rocinante's assistance. Are you sure this is a good idea, Faust? Hohenheim, if your employment at Limbus Company ever comes to a unilateral termination, I suppose the cause will be rather apparent. Your highly irresponsible level of curiosity. Not a good idea. Got it. That would be my greatest honor as a researcher. Hey, if anything goes wrong, Yi-sang will be on the ready to slip those shoes right back onto your feet at a moment's notice, okay? I shall be on the ready. Dude, he's gonna be reduced to a pulp. Behold me not with such excessive anticipation. Oh, there shan't be any new revelations here. Don Quixote begins to untie her shoes, seething. This 7-layered knot poseth quite the difficulty, young Ishmael. Wherefore hast thou tied these cords with such unwavering tightness? I was hoping they'd be the last knot those shoelaces would ever tie. Of course. Ah, there we go. Rest thee well, Rocinante. For The sinners and I were all quite nervous, but none of us stepped forward to stop this experiment. Why didn't we stop this? Was it because we thought we knew removing Rocinante doesn't necessarily mean she'll be losing control? Because we saw its effect on the warp train and at La Mancha Land? Or was it because we assumed Rocinante was now just a disguise, and now that Don Quixote has accepted her past as Sancho, removing it wouldn't affect her psyche at all? Whatever the case, it was a mistake to ignore that nagging feeling. These researchers don't know what facing Don Quixote, Sancho, the second kindred, is like. We do. Mother. Oh, Mother. Our existence is death in perpetuity. Complete us, fill our hunger. We pray unto you, fill us with the blood of humans, with the blood of humans. Oh, guess Dante hears that. The teeming, shouting voices suddenly began to echo in my head. They're the voices of all the children he had embraced. Or perhaps this was the blood's fiends' instinct given voice imprinted upon them at the moment of their birth. Proliferate to this disease, embrace this unending hunger, and propagate the family. So many voices, so much yearning, so much sorrow. Every single kindred that has ever existed in the past kneels before Don Quixote. Oh, dearest Mother, as your children, oh, this is going fast. When shall we be permitted to quench this thirst for blood? I must drink blood. I have to drink all the blood. All the blood of the family deserves to drink. I must. Dante, wake up. Ain't this a lot like the last time at the building when the fire on their head suddenly exploded? I gotta get a hold of myself. Thirst, my body can't even feel thirsty. This doesn't make any sense. I'm okay now. What did you see, Dante? If we want to bring Don Quixote back, we're going to need to quench her thirst somehow. We need something to sate that combined thirst, the desire of every single kindred. That's not good. You keep any blood here? Let's at least try to quench sweats. Yeah, we have some blood samples if you need them. Damn it, have you been listening to what the executive manager's been saying? It's the combined thirst of every single kindred. A few samples of blood aren't going to do anything. So you're going to sit there and do nothing? Ain't this just a matter of getting her shoes back on? Right, you saying shoes. Get those shoes back on her feet. I cannot. A bizarre wall of pressure surrounds her. This is one luxury cig. Good flavor. I bought those luxury cigarettes with our last bonus pay. These readings are incredible. So much power, even in a state that is, for all intents and purposes, complete emaciation. What, you egged her on knowing this would happen? I think that was pretty obvious. Like, they were calling her scared and everything. I'd be surprised if they weren't egging her on. I had many outcomes in mind. Some are quite similar to this, but this is beyond even the most extreme of my prediction. How the fuck are you so calm about this? We gotta do something. You haven't seen how hard the last hits. What would be the use of panicking now if the outcome does not align with the predictions? The first course of action should be to analyze the given data. However, it doesn't seem like our containment measures will be the answer here. Thus, the task of stopping her seems to fall straight onto all of you. Welp. Time for us to pay the price of curiosity.
메이저. 아니야. 마이너 아르카나 정도겠지? 조심해. 마이너라고 해도 생각보다 강할 수 있으니까. 내가 응원해줄게.
Oh god.
불가 위야 막아내지 못하리.
Well.
오늘도 정의로운 날이 될 수 있도록 힘내자. 다 함께 아르카나 비트.
타겟 포착. 지방향.
틈을 끊어.
봐, 어렵지 않지? 이미 관찰 기록이 있는 유형대로만 공격하면 되잖아.
관찰 기록을 잘 읽은 것 같네. 훌륭했어.
그 삶의 마침표를.
제압 개체에게 맞는 정상적인 공격이야. 잘했어.
티페리트. 당연한 걸 한 것 가지고 굳이 칭찬할 필요 없어.
나아가주게.
너희는 잘 해낼 거야. 언제나 그랬듯이.
실패할 수도 있겠지. 언제나 그랬듯이.
자, 어느 쪽일지 잘 생각해보라고. 편히 쉬시게.
옳다.
메이저. 아니야. 마이너 아르카나 정도겠지? 조심해. 마이너라고 해도 생각보다 강할 수 있으니까. 내가 응원해줄게.
불가 위야 막아내지 못하리. 이 거리면 충분해. 너한텐 조금 멀겠지만.
해냈구나. 나라도 그랬을 거야.
그쪽 방향이 아닐 텐데.
느껴졌어? 내가 너희를 위해서 주문을 외웠는데. 응, 잘 걸린 것 같아. 자, 지금 싸워보는 거야.
서적 개시.
Okay, that could have been. Oh, it's just a scripted loss. Okay, that's not too bad. Oh wow, it's really loud. I have to be the mother to all of them. The family thirsts. No, my lady, you need to be the mother of anyone here. Here, you are a sinner, nothing more. I'm loving these cutscenes. I will not place the blame of this incident on anyone, Dante. I understand that no one could have expected this outcome, given the dearth of intelligence regarding the binding tool the first kindred had gifted to the third sinner. Well then, I hadn't had that much first-hand experience with watching Virgilius. Is it pronounced a J or a G? I'm just gonna say it's a G. Virgilius fight, but this was certainly the most exhausted I've ever seen him after a fight. I decided to say nothing and turned the clock. After some time passed. Don Quixote, what happened? Did you lose consciousness? or did something affect your memory? Manager Esquire, my memories were fine, but I heard something as soon as I removed my shoes. Voices, right? Once again, you have witnessed me. Yes, the voices. So many voices. But voices? The voices of my family. But the blood fiends of La Mancha land are all... Sinclair trailed off. Every single blood fiend left inside La Mancha land was killed when the amusement park collapsed. In other words, most of Don Quixote's lower kindreds were dead. That is indeed correct. But I cannot well explain how. The only way I might explain this is that it was though my very blood remembered them still. I recognize some of them, and some were voices of those I once deeply cared for. It seems that I was, against my own desire, made to ascend to my father's seat. Perhaps I always was, ever since then. Now I was struck not only by my own thirst, but the combined thirst of every single one of the children. Thirst. Indeed, I am also bound by that thirst. It is only natural because I am a blood fiend. Thus, the pressure of it all broke my hold of sanity, and I hurt you all as Don Quixote the blood fiend, a higher kindred, not as Don Quixote, a sinner and your friend. Don Quixote, this isn't your fault. No, such words are meaningless. She looked down at her pair of shoes, the strings again neatly tied. The higher office will now be regularly supplying you with an artificial blood pack. Hohenheim approached us after spending a while vigorously scribbling something in his notes. The blood substitute will be very similar to real blood in terms of composition, and we won't have any issues with supply. I don't suppose you actually believe that mere willpower would be enough to withstand this urge. I have done quite well suppressing it thus far. Indeed, and that was precisely the wick attached to the ticking time bomb within the LCB. I must remind you that the soundness of this limiter of yours is quite tenuous, as today's events have demonstrated. Is it your implication that the purpose of conducting this reckless experiment was to determine the full extent of the latent danger? I don't know, it seems like he was in it only to sate his curiosity. Call it merely the auspice of opportune convenience. The risk factor had to be measured sooner or later. Had I known the full extent of the danger she posed, I would have immediately requested a forceful summoning of your department. Of course, as large as this void of unknowns was, we were able to fill it with much new information. Certain analysis can be drawn by comparing the reports regarding blood fiends and this very experiment. Let us discuss the thirst you experienced first. For example, the combined desire of every lower kindred. Indeed, it is true. The Machigan kindreds have been completely eradicated due to the events of La Mancha land. But you still heard the voices of your children, yes? What are you trying to say? I aim to discuss the powerful binding force contained within blood. LCD's cooperative report explains that blood is not merely a carrier of nutrients, but something more, that it contains certain abstract values as well. We sent in a complaint that the report was far too vague in its wording, and we received a reply on their on-site investigation reasoning team. Leaders spat out the contents of which were equally fascinating. This desire of their kind, this thirst, is something that may as well be imbued and imprinted on the familial bloodline. Normally the weight of that thirst is far too heavy for any individual to bear, which is why they bear the unbearable burden together. But considering that all of that desire is now focused onto an individual on account of the extinction of her entire family line, it is easy to see why her whole sanity was so easily broken, no matter the strength of her will. She alone was made to bear the responsibility, the pressure, the duty of having to raise the family once again. And because none of those needs are currently met, there comes the endless exacerbating thirst and more thirst. It is quite fascinating to see how your kind preserves these very abstract values in the physical form of blood. The mere word thirst does quite the insufficient job of describing the intensity of which you have lost control. This was my oversight, I must admit. I do respect your effort to be liberated from your nature, I truly do, but I also maintain that it is highly advisable for you to regularly consume the provided blood packs. Understood. but one day I wished to dismount from Rocinante and walk bare of feet and feel the earth under my own skin. I was able to establish one positive fact from this exercise, however. What might that be? That there are those who would quite literally throw their lives on the line to stop you, even if you were to take off your shoes. In other words, I don't believe it to be necessary for other departments to exercise any separate control over you. Well, now that I've had my first-hand account of your conditions, I will write the following in the report. Still quite unstable, yet with effort from the subject herself and efforts from various other environmental factors, this subject has been deemed sufficiently controllable. Once again, I do respect your efforts, or any kind of effort really, because I've never had much use for it myself. Don Quixote took a deep breath, then turned to face the sinners. By then her eyes had regained their usual softer look. But sorrow was seeping through the tone of her voice, despite her theatrical manner of speech. Returning, her tone reminded me of our time in La Mancha land. My deepest apologies, dearest friends. Forsooth, I shall ever oh my gosh, I can't speak. Persevere to see that Rocinante, my shoes, are never to be removed again. Lass, you're looking at it all wrong. You're going to remove those shoes one day, yeah? And that's what you're going to persevere towards. Verily. I think she let out a brief, quiet laughter. Ah, Manager Esquire. Perchance is there aught to that thou concealest from my knowledge? What do you mean? I don't think so. It's no coincidence that at this very moment I noticed Faust looking in my direction. I don't know if I made the right choice here, but... Faust nodded lightly, as though to say that I did. I stopped hesitating, and the tick-tocking noise came to a stop. Very well, then. However, I cannot help but admit that I felt some strong degree of anxiety as I watched Don Quixote walk away as though nothing had happened.